Dan Illman might be race number 9 at the fairgrounds on Louisiana Derby Saturday is the Grade 2 $500,000 New Orleans Classic. Let's take a look at this field. We're traveling a mile and an eighth on the main track, and it features one of the better handicap horses in the country. The number 2 Art Collector is a multiple Grade 1 stakes winner. He's banked over $4 million in his career, and he sure looked good last time out in the Pegasus World Cup. He's your 8-5 morning line favorite and the horse to beat.
Yeah, he is the horse to beat in here. Just brings good form into this race, Dan, as you've already pointed out. And it was more than anything else, I thought anyway, in his most recent Grade 1 win. Nice to see him be able to do it without the lead, because it sort of felt like that could be his Achilles heel. But man, he sat comfortably last time and won anyway.
That's really a good point, and it could be a sign of his maturation as he's gotten older, and it could really benefit him this year in 2023, especially in this race. As we throw up the Timeform US pace projector, there is speed surrounding Art Collector. The number 1 Treasury stepping way up in class, but drawing the inside with his sort of early speed, he's expected to go. West Will Power is at his best when he's on the lead, and if Art Collector can just sort of track in behind those two, he could be sitting a lovely trip.
Yeah, similar trip to the one he got last time could be coming. And if he runs as well on Saturday as he did at the Pegasus World Cup, he's going to be tough in here.
Stakes debut for the number 1 Treasury in his 25th lifetime start, but he's coming into this race sharp. He just beat a couple of next out winners in the second level allowance at the fairgrounds, a race in which he blasted off to an easy early lead, went fast that opening quarter mile or so over the wet track and just kept going. This is worlds different from a competition standpoint.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if they're going to run here, I guess they're just going to send him to the lead from the rail and see what he can do, Dan. It's hard to make a real case for him on paper in this race. Even if he does shake loose, it kind of feels like it's not going to be enough. This is a horse, though, I guess it's worth pointing out, is all 3 wins since he broke his maiden on wet, sealed tracks. I don't know what the forecast is for Saturday, but if it's wet, maybe it helps him a little bit.
Art Collector looked really good winning the Pegasus World Cup last time out, over 4 quality next out winners. Let's watch that race right now. It's at Art Collector's preferred distance, which is this distance, a mile and an eighth, and by the time they turn into the stretch, he has swept to the front and he's on his way.
Yeah, it was just a good trip for him, sitting up close on the outside. He takes over here in the stretch, and he's just moving away from this field. Nobody really closing that hard behind him. Don't think it was really going to matter, Dan. He's much the best in here. Another 107 buyer for him. His overall form is excellent. Could get another good trip in this race. They have him to beat.
One of the next out winners that Art Collector defeated in the Pegasus World Cup was Last Samurai, who came back to deny the number 3 West Will Power in the Razorback handicap last time out at Oaklawn Park. Let's watch the stretch drive of that race. And West Will Power was pulling hard in the early portion of this race. He likes to be forward. He was involved in a little bit of a battle with the eventual third place finisher, Law Professor. He's now going to put Law Professor away. Here comes Last Samurai. He did a lot of work in this race, West Will Power. I was a fan of his earlier on. I've kind of cooled on him a little bit, but I still think his running style is dangerous and his ability is there.
Yeah, he ran pretty well in this race. He's only second best. And listen, that pace wasn't that fast early, but he did hook up with Law Professor around that final turn, and maybe it cost him just a little bit at the end. Listen, he's won without the lead in the past, Dan. Recently, it seems like he doesn't really want to rate anymore. That kind of felt like a big problem for him last time in that Razorback. He didn't want to sit at all on that first turn and pulled his rider right up to the lead in that race. I don't think he can get away with that in here, especially with the horse to his inside. But I guess his good race gives him a real chance.
The number 4 is Trafalgar, who returned off of a lengthy layoff in for a tag that did not dissuade trainer Chris Hartman, who dropped the $50,000 for Trafalgar, and Trafalgar came through on his end, winning pretty easily. This horse was sort of thrown to the wolves after a first-level allowance win around 2 turns at Fairgrounds last year. He still has to prove he's a graded stakes kind of horse.
Yeah, he's got a lot to prove here. I actually was a fan of his as a 3-year-old. I thought there was a chance he could turn out to be pretty good. And obviously that didn't happen. He missed a lot of time after that Matt win in the middle of June, Dan. And I guess it's a bad sign that when he came back from that long layoff finally last month that he was in for 50. I still think there's a chance he could improve somewhere down the line. I doubt he could win this race.
Rattle and Roll, the number 5, I think has an upset chance in this race for trainer Kenny McPeak, who usually put this horse in pretty good spots. He was 4th in the Louisiana Derby last year, but then he found some great spots. He found a race like the American Derby at Churchill Downs, the St. Louis Derby at FanDuel, the Oklahoma Derby at Remington. They took a chance stretching him all the way out to 13 furlongs for his final start last year, and it was probably a bridge too far. He did split a couple of next out winners, gets back to 1 1/8, and he's earned a figure 2 starts back.
Yeah, he did. He was getting better towards the end of last year. So you're right. A lot of that had to do with the races that McPeak was running him in, but he had potential as a 2-year-old. He was okay at 3, started getting better. I don't care about his last race, Dan. The wins 2 and 3 starts back, though. I thought he looked really good winning both times against inferior competition. He's got a lot to prove here, but he could certainly take a step forward.
The horse he finished directly behind in that marathon last time out did come back to win a stake at Oaklawn with a 98 Beyer speed figure. Up next is Happy American. This is the number 6. Happy American goes out for trainer Neil Pessin. This horse didn't run very well last time out in the mine shaft. It was coming off the heels of a career best performance in the Louisiana 2 starts back. What happened last time?
I don't know. I guess that's the question that you're going to have to, reconcile if you want to go back to him. And here again, he just didn't run that well. He was pretty strongly rated early in that race, and I wonder if maybe that got to him because he just came up totally empty in the stretch. Obviously, his races 2 and 3 back give him some kind of a chance in here, especially if the pace gets fast.
The 7 Mr. Wireless has been a kind of underrated horse for most of his career. He won the Indiana and West Virginia Derbies as a 3-year-old, and he was a consistent performer last year, placing in a couple of graded stakes races. And last time out, he just got beat ahead in the mine shaft by Pioneer of Medina. He is a solid horse. He probably needs to take a slight step forward, but if he gets the right setup, this is a horse that I could see punching on late.
Yeah, I like this horse overall, and he could certainly get a good trip in this race. To me, he's just kind of running out of chances, Dan, after those last 3 efforts. And he ran, fine in all 3 of those stakes races, but you can go back and, watch the replays of any of those races. He had every chance. Last time in the mine shaft, couldn't get by, had every chance. 2 starts back in the Louisiana, couldn't get by, and he was no match for Happy American in 1 start prior to that, too. I mean, his form is good, but he's got to find a way to win one of these races.
The Pioneer Medina was briefly on the Kentucky Derby trail last year. He was a no-excuse 3rd in the Louisiana Derby. There was some hype surrounding him, and he did show up in the Kentucky Derby, and that race was a bit of a disaster, and it took this horse a long time to get back to his good form, but it appears he's finally there. He won the mine shaft in his most recent start, and he's another horse with good tactical speed, obviously well connected with Luis Saez and Todd Pletcher.
This last couple of races are both pretty good, Dan. Got the job done last time, denying Mr. Wireless all the way down to the wire. I thought he ran well there. He ran fine. I know he got the big triple-digit Beyer 2 back. I don't know. I didn't think he ran great in that race. I don't know. He looks better on paper than he actually is.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the New Orleans Classic on Louisiana Derby Saturday. Art Collector is way the horse to beat. I have a feeling he's going to take a lot more money than the 8-5 on the morning line, which will cause West Will Power to drift a bit. I'm hoping that West Will Power can at least sit off this long shot, maybe forge to the lead turning into the long stretch, and then he'll have to deal with Art Collector. But it's a tall task indeed.
It seems like it. We'll see what happens, Dan. I wound up settling with Art Collector just because I couldn't really find anybody else I wanted to bet in the race. I guess if I do wind up betting it, what I'll do is I won't be against Art Collector, but I'll be against the other favorite, West Will Power. Try to get him out of the number and use some other horses.
One of those horses could certainly be Rattle and Roll, who looked like he was coming into form towards the end of last year. Mike's going 2-5-6-7. We'll see if West Will Power can get back on the beam. 3-2-5-8 for me. It's the New Orleans Classic. Best of luck.